Just very quickly, there's a lot of drilling in Pennsylvania. 3,500 wells have been drilled, 1,600 of which are producing. It's the difference between wells drilled and the number actually producing. That 3.5 billion cubic feet per day is probably a little bit behind the time, not much, but a little bit. And it already represents close to 6% of all U.S. gas production. Shale production is about 30% of U.S. Gas production. It was 1% as recently as in 2000. To put it bluntly, New York Times is basically full of it. But the upper reaches of just what the Marcellus could produce, and now I'm talking about West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York, are truly extraordinary. If I was pushed on this, I would say the probability of that is much lower than 95%, probably even somewhat lower than 50%. But it's going to be big numbers, and it's possible, at least, that you could see that kind of extraordinary production. The EIS is very comprehensive, and it's over 1,000 pages. But I guess the takeaway point from that EIS is there are no showstoppers, and I think if there were a real showstopper, New York would have found it. Now, New York is going to probably have the most rigorous and quote-unquote costly set of regulations and protections in the United States. Pennsylvania's, frankly, are pretty tough as well, but I think New York, from what I'm reading, is going to take it a step further, in part to say they took it a step further. There are a range of legitimate issues and concerns that do need to be addressed by regulation, whether it be state or federal. This is a real issue. And I want to distinguish this issue from frac fluids returning from depth and reaching groundwater or people's water wells. At least in Pennsylvania, we have not had one such case of frac fluids returning from depth and reaching people's water wells. Nationwide, I can't speak personally as to the nationwide point, but I can absolutely tell you that frac fluids have never come back up from depth in Pennsylvania and reached people's water wells. We actually tested for it a number of times. But what I can also tell you just as certainly is that poor drilling techniques and poor drilling design, poor drilling execution, a set of reasons can and have caused gas to move to people's water wells and contaminate them. Whenever you have one of these kinds of cases, it's almost inevitably a dispute because the argument becomes whether the gas was pre-existing, quote-unquote biogenic, or whether it came to the well as a result of the drilling. In Pennsylvania, we looked at a number of cases, and not too surprisingly, the test results, some cases were a result of drilling, and some were, in fact, pre-existing. In the most famous instance, probably, or infamous instance, it's the Dimmick set of cases. We found 19 water wells had, in fact, been contaminated by gas drilling, not pre-existing gas. There's a lot more to be said about this. The Duke study also found that there was no frac fluids coming back from depth. That finding is equally important. I concur with the finding that gas migration occurred in those wells that they looked at. They looked at basically the same wells DEP had looked at.